Garden of Forgotten Letters. On the quiet outskirts of Florence, nestled between rolling vineyards and olive groves, stood an old villa known as La Rosa Bianca. For decades, the house had been empty, its windows shuttered, its walls draped with ivy. That was until Isabella Rossi, a young historian with a passion for uncovering forgotten stories, inherited it from her late grandmother. When Isabella first walked through the creaking doorway, dust swirled in the air, and the faint scent of lavender lingered. She remembered summers as a child, running barefoot through the gardens, her grandmother's laughter echoing behind her. But now the house was silent, as though waiting to share its secrets. One rainy afternoon, while exploring the villa's library, Isabella discovered a wooden chest hidden behind a stack of faded books. Inside lay a bundle of letters tied with a silk ribbon. The ink had faded, but the handwriting was elegant, each word carefully written. The letters told the story of a soldier named Marco, who had written to a woman named Elena during the Second World War. Marco's words were tender, filled with longing and hope. "If the world allows it, I will return to you. If not, my love will remain with you, like the roses in the garden that never stopped blooming." The letters ended abruptly, with no answer from Elena. Isabella's curiosity grew. Who was Elena? Did Marco ever return? Why had these letters been hidden away? Determined to find the truth, Isabella sought help from Luca Moretti, a local archivist and childhood friend she hadn't seen in years. When she knocked on his office door, Luca looked up, his familiar smile softening the years between them. "Isabella Rossi," he said warmly, "you haven't changed at all." Together, they began piecing the puzzle together. Luca spent nights searching through military records, while Isabella scoured old journals and perished documents. As days turned into weeks, their friendship rekindled, slowly blossoming into something deeper. She noticed the way his eyes lit up when he explained his findings, and he found himself lingering on her laughter longer than he should. One evening, while the golden Tuscan sun set over the hills, they sat in the villa's garden surrounded by roses. Luca handed her a faded document he had finally uncovered. Marco had died in battle in 1944, never able to return. Elena, heartbroken, had never married, but she had kept his letters close until the end of her life. Isabella's eyes welled with tears. "It's so tragic, yet so beautiful. Their love never faded, even when the world tore them apart." Luca reached for her hand, his voice gentle. "Perhaps, some stories are left for us to finish." She looked at him, the weight of years dissolving in that moment. There was no war to separate them, no silence to bury their words. Only the promise of a future unwritten. From then on, the villa was no longer a place of forgotten letters but a home filled with new memories. Isabella and Luca restored the gardens, planting roses in honor of Marco and Elena. Each bloom carried a story of love lost and love found, reminding them both that even in sorrow, love endures, and sometimes, fate allows two hearts to write the ending their predecessors never could. The Bridge of Silent Promises. The small town of Riverton had always been quiet, tucked between gentle hills and the winding river that gave the town its name. At the heart of the town stood an old wooden bridge. It wasn't particularly grand, but it was where generations of people had left their secrets, promises, and whispers of love. Sophia had grown up in Riverton. She was a painter who found inspiration in the soft ripples of the river and the way the light played across the old bridge. To her, the bridge was more than just a structure, it was a symbol of waiting, of hope, and of unspoken stories. One summer morning, as Sophia set up her easel near the bridge, she noticed someone she had never seen before. A young man, perhaps a year or two older than her, sat on the edge of the bridge with a notebook in hand. His hair fell loosely across his forehead, and the way his eyes lingered on the river told her he wasn't just passing through, he was searching for something. Curiosity got the better of her. "Writing about the river?" Sophia asked lightly, her brush still poised in her hand. He looked up, startled, then smiled. "Something like that. I'm Daniel. I came here to find quiet." Over the next weeks, their paths kept crossing. Daniel was a writer from the city, worn down by deadlines and noise. He had come to Riverton hoping to finish his novel, But instead he found himself drawn to Sophia's laughter, her calm presence, and the colors she breathed into her paintings. They began to share long afternoons by the bridge. She painted, he wrote, and in the silences between, something tender bloomed. He read her lines from his unfinished story, she showed him sketches no one else had seen. Each evening, when the sun melted into the horizon, they would walk across the bridge, as if sealing the day with unspoken promises. But as summer waned, reality began to tug at Daniel. His publisher was waiting. His life was still in the city. Sophia, rooted in Riverton, had her family, her studio, and the town that held her heart. On their last evening together, they stood at the center of the bridge. Neither wanted to speak of goodbyes, yet both knew the truth was pressing between them. "I don't want this to end," Daniel whispered, his hand brushing hers. Sophia's eyes glistened, but her voice was steady. "Then don't let it. Some things are worth changing for." That night, they kissed under the lantern glow of the bridge. It wasn't a promise spoken aloud, but it was enough. Months later, when the first snow fell on Riverton, Sophia returned to the bridge with her easel. She didn't expect to see him again so soon. But there he was, notebook in hand, with a smile that held all the words he hadn't yet written. "I finished my novel," Daniel said softly, stepping closer. "But I realized the story I really want to write is with you." The bridge, witness to countless whispers of love before them, stood silent as Sophia leaned into him. And in that quiet town by the river, a new chapter began, one built on the kind of promises that never needed to be spoken, because they were written in every heartbeat. The Bridge of Whispered Promises. On the outskirts of a quiet European town stood an old stone bridge, weathered by centuries of wind, rain, and countless footsteps. The townspeople said it was a bridge of promises. Whoever confessed their love upon it, under the glow of the lanterns at night, would have their bonds sealed forever. Amelia had always found comfort in the bridge. She was a painter, quiet and thoughtful, often carrying her sketchbook to capture the way moonlight shimmered on the water below. For her, the bridge wasn't about romance, it was about inspiration. But all of that changed the night she met Daniel. Daniel was a traveler, a photographer who roamed from city to city, capturing fleeting moments. He had come to the town on a whim, drawn by the stories of its cobblestone streets and the whispers of history that lingered there. His first evening, camera in hand, he stumbled upon the bridge and upon Amelia. She was sitting on the edge, brush poised, completely lost in her work. Daniel couldn't resist capturing the scene, her auburn hair glowing in the lantern light, her delicate hands moving across the canvas with quiet determination. The click of his camera startled her. "You should have asked," she said with a hint of irritation, but her voice softened when their eyes met. "I'm sorry," Daniel replied, lowering his camera. "You just looked timeless. Like you belonged to the bridge." They laughed, and that small exchange became the beginning of something neither of them expected. Over the following weeks, Daniel found himself returning to the bridge each evening, always hoping Amelia would be there. She was. Slowly, their conversations grew longer. They spoke of art, of dreams, of fears. Daniel told her of the world beyond the town, of mountains bathed in golden dawns and seas that shimmered like liquid glass. Amelia, who had never left her small town, listened with quiet wonder. "You make the world sound like a painting," she whispered one night. "And you," Daniel said, "make it feel like home." Their bond deepened, delicate but undeniable. They spent hours together, creating side by side, her with her paints, him with his lens. Each tried to capture the other in their own way, not realizing that what they were truly capturing was love. But the world is never without its trials. Daniel's time in the town was limited. His work demanded that he continue his journey, moving from place to place. Amelia knew this, yet her heart ached at the thought of losing him. On his last night, they returned to the bridge. The lanterns flickered in the autumn wind, and the river whispered below. "I don't want this to end," Amelia confessed, her voice trembling. Daniel took her hand. "Neither do I. But life pulls me forward, and I don't know when I'll be back." Tears glistened in her eyes, but she nodded. Then promise me something. No matter where you go, you'll carry this bridge with you, in your heart. And when you return, we'll meet here again. He looked at her, the woman who had unknowingly painted herself into his soul, and said softly, I promise. They kissed beneath the lantern glow, sealing their vow. Years passed. Amelia stayed, painting, always leaving a space in her canvases for the man who had once stood beside her. Daniel traveled, photographing deserts, cities, and oceans, but in every image, a shadow of Amelia lingered, her presence woven into the colors of his work. One spring evening, just as the first blossoms drifted into the river, Amelia stood on the bridge once more. She no longer came with expectation, she came because the bridge had become part of her life, a memory she couldn't let go. But that night, as the lanterns lit, a familiar sound broke the silence, the click of a camera. She turned, her heart stopping. There he was. Older, weathered by time and travel, but unmistakably Daniel. I kept my promise, he whispered, lowering his camera. Her eyes filled with tears as she smiled. And so did I. They walked toward each other, no longer strangers, no longer bound by uncertainty. The bridge had waited, just as they had. And beneath its glowing lanterns, where promises once began, love finally returned home.